All right, let's go ahead and get started. We want to welcome everyone to our December webinar. We're going to be talking about social media trends for 2017. We've got some really great stuff we're really excited about to share with everyone here today. We had a couple housekeeping things real quick. We just want to let everyone know that yes, we are recording this webinar. We will be emailing it out to all of you that have registered just in case you have something that comes up during the webinar, and it will also be hosted and posted on our YouTube channel. So you can check out our YouTube channel. Just look for Nuvi. We have our previous webinars on there, and this one will be posted either later today or early tomorrow morning. Just want to introduce our guest today. Get to know Eric Lamb, our VP of Product Success here at Nuvi. Eric's been with us for what? You pushing 6 or 7 months now?
Yeah,
8 months?
6 months.
And he's really helped us bring a lot of great things both coming out as well as the things he's able to help us get initiated here at Nuvi. A little bit about Eric. He's an avid cyclist, both mountain and road. Former bike shop owner, right? Is that right? Or still kind of bike shop owner?
Yeah, we still have a bike shop, yeah.
Transplant from Arizona. He joined us here in Utah. He's still trying to get used to the cold winters, although we haven't had a whole lot of snow, so he just has to deal with the cold weather. Let's talk a little bit about Nuvi real fast. Nuvi is a social media marketing platform, analytics. We do analyze, engage, publish all your social channels. And what do you want to add about Nuvi, Eric?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I mean, we're pretty focused on being a pretty comprehensive solution for anybody that's doing anything on social. So
yeah,
I think our primary strength, right, is listening, right? We're one of the best in the industry at being able to listen to the conversation that's going on out there.
Yeah, you can see in this little screenshot here, we listened to the conversation surrounding Cyber Monday and all the different posts, people that were posting, whether it was people that got a great deal or people that missed out on a deal, and all the data and analytics surrounding Cyber Monday. Before we jump into the trends of 2017, let's look at 2016 real quick. Wow, what a year! We've really seen a lot of things happen just in the social media world. First and foremost, Facebook Live. I was reading an article from Variety about Facebook Live and how they have seen a 400% growth of users posting live videos. And I've noticed it in my Facebook feed, everything from small e-commerce companies, people showing instructional videos, even people at sporting events broadcasting live. I really love the commercials that they do on TV. Have you seen some of the Facebook Live commercials?
They're actually really, really well done.
They make me want to use it. Like just immediately, okay, I'm sitting watching TV and I'm going to Facebook Live the Facebook Live commercial.
Yeah, this is a weird thing, but I love the red. I don't know why, but they've had blue in their logo for so long. I love the red. It's so catchy.
It really is a great contrast, and even just looking at the logo, you feel like we're on screen right now and we're doing a webinar. So. Facebook, of course, starts the trends, right? So once Facebook, I mean, YouTube has been doing this for a long time, but the live aspect, Facebook jumping in and live is spreading all over. I mean, obviously we had Periscope and Meerkat, but really where the concentration of users is on Facebook. Once Facebook jumped into that game, it's done nothing but spread throughout other social networks. Again, for video sharing is the future of social media, and we will jump into this a lot more. You can see here Instagram stories, people being able to share the small clips, copying Snapchat, showing some of those features and being able to share their personal lives just quickly and easily. We just announced also that they're doing the live feature. I don't know how many of you have seen this, where you can go in to your Instagram profile and broadcast live, similar to Facebook Live, but the Instagram Live does not post to your feed. So it's kind of like a Snapchat feature where you can broadcast live, but once the live broadcast is over, it's over. So just another feature of Instagram is, and I'm sure that will jump to your feed here shortly, but that's the feature they have currently. Again, Snapchat added its memories feature. These are just things that happened in 2016. And announced just yesterday, literally as I was building out some of these things for the slideshow, is that Twitter now has their live feature. Now, they always had Twitter through live through Periscope, right? And so now you can actually jump on Twitter either take a picture, shoot some video, or you can see here they have the live button, the live feature, and you can broadcast live. How do you think, Eric, this is going to change Twitter in moving forward?
So I think it'll help them be way more competitive than they are today, especially with younger demographics, right? If you look at their success with Periscope, I think it's pretty interesting. If you look at John Legere, the CEO of T-Mobile, and what he's been doing with Periscope, I mean, he's really helped like that platform take off. And I think Twitter's trying to figure out how do we take it to the next level, integrate it with your Twitter feed, do it natively inside the app, and make it really valuable for marketers and just general users.
Yeah, you think of all the breaking news and things throughout the world where people will now jump to Twitter to post their live video, and I think it's going to be a huge feature for Twitter. I mean, they've been working towards this with Periscope, but to actually have it inside of Twitter all in one place is going to be amazing.
I think it'll be interesting to see which platform takes the lion's share of live video, right? Because you've got Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter all doing it now, right? And even though Facebook owns Instagram, they kind of get a twofer, right? They get a pass. They're going to win almost every time, I think. But it'll be interesting to see who gravitates more towards Snapchat and who gravitates more towards Twitter. And we see this with all the other types of posts that get shared, whether they're image heavy or content heavy. You know, there's always demographic differences. And it'll be interesting to see, probably around mid-year or so, what are the demographic differences across the different platforms using live video. And hopefully those are some data points that we can get to, and if we can, at Nuvve, we'll bring them into the platform and share them with our customers. But it'll be really interesting to see how the demographic mix plays out across each of the platforms.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting. Just if you look at the social media platforms currently, you think Snapchat, I immediately think our interns that we have here, right? Sure. Like interns are Snapchatting while they're spinning around in their chairs, and you think, well, how useful is Snapchat honestly?
Yeah.
So we'll let's move forward into let's see. Okay, 2017. So thinking about video, thinking about how video is going to be the future of 2017. Here are just some simple tips. We'll kind of bounce through these regarding video and some things that we think are going to be important for 2017. Again, just like what we were talking about, platforms will continue to change. What do you think is going to happen on some of the platforms moving forward?
Yeah, so I think all these companies, all these networks are really, really good about iterating their platform and bringing new innovative features to market, right? I think the thing that'll be interesting to see is how they start to diverge, because now they've all come towards live video, and some of them are going to natively be better for marketers, and some will maybe migrate more towards the individual user. So it'll be interesting to see what features they develop specifically. We can talk about this a little bit more in a minute around commercialization and how each of these platforms are trying to monetize, live video or static video, whatever it is. But I think it'll be an interesting year.
Yeah, we're definitely going to jump into more of that in just a second here. Again, video sharing is going to get bigger and it's going to get more expensive. We see that just here at Nuvve with a lot of the things that we're doing. The more content there is, there's only so many eyeballs, and it's going to get more and more costly, more and more expensive. And that leads into this next slide. Like, if you aren't already creating video content, we get it. We're talking about video content and creating video content, but we're doing a webinar. We're talking to people in a webinar. We try to include as many GIFs as possible so that at least you feel like you're watching a video.
This is a great clock image. Yeah, so one thing about this I think that people should be aware of is, don't produce more content, produce better content. I think we're going to talk in a second about, people's attention span and hooks, right, getting people to watch your things. But you really should focus on producing better content. That doesn't mean that it has to be overly produced in a high dollar setting in an acoustical room, but it does need to be good, catchy content that tells a story and that people are interested in or that resonates with people, whatever your demographic is or whoever you're marketing to, rather than pushing out tons of what I call low fidelity content that people don't watch or they're not interested in. Because over time you degrade your brand if you have a lot of low fidelity content that people aren't interested in.
And that we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that here too as well. Again, tell a story with your content, so tell a story with your video. It could be a simple or complex one. Eric was just telling me a little bit about this life insurance company in Taiwan telling the story.
Thailand, yeah.
Thailand.
Yeah, interesting use case, right? It's called Thai Life Insurance. You go out on YouTube. My kids actually showed me this. They have some really interesting videos. They're not funny at all. They're actually, you know, about being a better human, being a better person. The thing that's really interesting, probably their most well-known video has about 30 million views. And they've taken this perspective, like they want to do some public good, and at the very end they show their logo. That's it. There's no call to action. There's nothing, and everybody knows who this life insurance company is now. Universities are using it in case studies. Elementary schools are showing the video in class to help kids be better students or better neighbors, or less bullying, whatever it is. So there's nothing wrong with a big global brand doing something that's just for the public good, and there's nothing in it for them, right? I know we have a lot of marketers that are listening, and they'll know about a concept called the principle of reciprocity, and that's actually it's a very, very powerful thing when brands do something that gives back to society. That resonates with people, right? And I think we'll see that more in 2017. I think we'll see people, large brands, Fortune 500 companies, whoever it is, develop part of their strategy as part of giving back, right? And ironically, they're going to get brand recognition for it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing worse than a bad story, right? And there's nothing better than a good story. So as we're telling stories to both our clients and our potential clients through the content that we produce, it's very important to make sure the story is simple and it can be consumed and understood.
Completely agree.
Again, here's a little quote from Gary Vee, one of our favorites. Give value, value, value. So you can give value through storytelling, you can give value through entertainment, and then ask for business. Make sure you're building up that in your video content and understanding. Make sure you are quick to the point. I mean, 10 seconds. I know coworkers here. I'm not going to mention them by name.
Are you referring to me? You referring to me? Yeah.
They might be listening right now, honestly, but their attention span is self-admittedly very, very short, and you got to catch them quick. I mean, there's a reason why it's called a hook, right? You hook them. You catch them quick. Lighten up. Stop being so boring. I really like what Eric and I got going on here. I think future webinars will just keep going and keep bouncing ideas back and forth. It really helps lighten things up, and you don't have to just listen to me talking in these webinars.
And we've talked a little bit about this, but I think this goes back to, really brands that are authentic. They do much better with consumers than brands that seem gimmicky, right? And you don't have to be funny all the time. You can just be interesting, right? And it really depends on your demographic or whoever it is. But I think that's a key thing is don't bore your customers, don't bore your audience, but try to figure out what can I do that's interesting, but it's also authentic and it connects with my brand.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to do a little shout out to myself here. We had an interviewee that came in for a job, and he had been checking out our Instagram account. And he's like, wow, Newbies Instagram, you guys do some really great things. And it was, I had honestly hadn't really thought of our Instagram account as necessarily recruiting, right, as a tool showing our company culture. But just by posting things to our Instagram of our Christmas party or of our different Tuesday lunch things here, it shows people that are interested in coming to work for you, the A+ talent, they're going to see the things that, the story that you're telling through about your company, about your brand. Let's jump to the next one here. Optimize for search. So yeah, there are some things that you can do specifically for video content. You're going to be able to put keyword tags. You're going to be optimized for the keywords that you specifically want, so that when people are searching for how to make sugar cookies, that your sugar cookie video is going to pop up to the top. Make sure you correctly label your videos on Facebook and Twitter. There's too often they don't get this right. People don't get that the keyword that people are searching for is what needs to happen in order to pop up, and make sure you just do that in your video content.
Yeah.
Fake news. This has been a little bit of a hot topic lately with the election. No matter what side of the campaign you were on, Facebook especially has been in the spotlight a lot for either censoring or collecting different news and putting it and showing and broadcasting, whether it's liberal or conservative, to different demographics. Fake news is a huge factor in social media.
Yeah.
There are some things that Facebook specifically is some steps they're taking that we need to be aware of as we're creating content, as we're even consuming social media. They're employing third-party organizations as fact checkers. They're notifying users of suspicious posts, and they're starting to verify with journalists the validity of claims made. Now, a lot of this comes from one of our writers. She previously worked at a newspaper, so she was creating editorial content and very specifically truthful, fact-checked content. And she was telling us about how in editorial you have to be truthful. I mean, you look at what Brian Williams did at NBC, and even just this simple. I mean, his falsehoods were fairly egregious, but a simple falsehood can really turn you. And so Facebook really wants to make sure. I mean, they continue to say they're a tech company. They're not a media company. They're not providing media. They're tech. But really, that's where they're getting their news. They're getting their information.
I'd be really interested to see how this plays out throughout the year, and how brands leverage this, or how brands are impacted by this. Because traditionally we think of news as kind of, third party. It's unrelated to commerce in a lot of ways, and then with the exception of like content marketing. But it'll be interesting to see if brands are impacted by some of the steps that Facebook's taking. And I can't wait for the day. It'll be an interesting day when somebody's legitimate post gets flagged as suspicious activity, right? It's going to be an interesting change, and in a world that brands are not used to, right? Because people are really used to pushing content out there, and then it lives in the ether. Nobody's used to pushing it out there and then a third party policing that. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how it impacts brands and agencies and marketers in general.
Yeah, I think that needs to be my goal in my social media activities is to post things, and hopefully they come back and say, no, Mr. Brown, you're not eating that peanut butter sandwich right now. That is false. That is a tuna fish sandwich.
You want to get one suspicious post in 2017.
That could be a really great goal. I've been looking at my goals for 2017, and that really could be a really great one. I mean, you think about it. I mean, our president-elect, whether you like him or not, is one of the most avid Twitter users in the country, and the things he posts on Twitter. I mean, you could honestly post things on Twitter and say that you heard Donald Trump tweet this, and people would believe you. Because it would just, I mean.
So that's actually a really good point. That we have a lot of clients that they use our platform specifically for PR type management activities. And the other day, the president-elect he tweeted about Lockheed Martin, and right after the market opened that morning, Lockheed Martin dropped 5.5%. Well, he had tweeted the night before, but as of 9 or 10 a.m. Eastern time, Lockheed Martin had still not made any type of rebuttal or acknowledgement of his tweet. And you contrast that with the week previous when he had tweeted about Boeing. Boeing came out pretty quickly and said something about it and said, hey, here's the facts, here's what we're doing, here's how many jobs we're keeping in the U.S. So whether you agree with his approach or not, it's a good lesson in PR, right? Like the ability to be proactive and always listening, always on, it's going to be more prevalent, right? Especially as these platforms turn into full-blown news and communications platforms. They're not just social anymore. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to be very particular.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine the president of the United States tweeting about your company at 9 p.m. at night, and I mean, it's what we live in today. That's our life, and especially as professionals and as PR professionals, a lot of our clients, we have to be aware of that and be ready for that, and be able to do that. There's one more slide here about fake news. Fact check is coming. There's some things there about making sure that the things we were saying are truthful, and the things that we are sharing, that we reshare, are truthful. Make sure we don't get caught in that. And then here we also, there's a couple things here that we wanted to chat about continually increasing your content standards. There's a couple things here, not only in being professional and being clean, having good content in that manner, but also to have branded, like stylized, make it applicable to your audience and understandable and consumable immediately.
Yeah, I think so. One thing we talk about internally here all the time is brand authenticity, and we're actually looking to build a product that allows brands to measure how authentic they are to their users. We think we have an algorithm that we've kind of messed with. We think we can calculate that. But this kind of goes along the same lines, right? People, they choose to follow or associate with brands that they feel are trustworthy and authentic. You should have content standards, right? Producing content for the sake of producing content is a terrible strategy. But you can gain a lot of followership if people can trust your brand and believe that your brand is trustworthy and that you're doing the right thing for consumers and potential customers.
Yeah, that's some breaking news there. That's some breaking news.
It's in the works.
Okay, in the works.
Don't hold me to a date. Don't hold me to a date.
Q2, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then surrounding video, yes, video in 2017 is going to be nothing more than extremely important. But we wanted to make sure that we all understand that video is the attention-grabbing aspect of social media. Video will be what pulls people in, but there's something that's more important than video, right? There's going to be something that's way more important beforehand.
Yeah, and so I think this is probably a good place to maybe transition and talk a little bit about how social is going to change commerce, right? We've already saw it a little bit this year with the introduction of buy buttons on multiple networks. That's going to happen more and more. If we, content in general is going to become more transactional. You look at Pinterest. Pinterest has done something interesting, right? If your company's not leveraging mobile payments, or if the brands that you manage aren't leveraging mobile payments, definitely something you want to look at. Pinterest allows you to buy directly inside of Pinterest through Apple Pay or Stripe. So if your company is using either of those platforms, you can purchase directly. And Pinterest doesn't even have your card number or anything like that. So really, really easy, seamless transactions right from inside the network. Very few companies have taken advantage of this, but this will be the year, I think, where you really start to see the integration of mobile payments, the device, and social, right? And these will become transactional platforms, and people will buy more and more goods, right? We saw that on Cyber Monday. The largest increase in mobile transactions on Cyber Monday, huge increase over the previous year. And I think now that's going to transition to social, right? And smaller brands will win. So if you manage, or if you're an agency and a lot of your clients are smaller niche brands, this is a great way for you to win a lion's share of the business from larger brands.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have I gotten in trouble for the buy now button on Amazon? I mean, on my phone,
right?
Finger print away from sending that 2-day shipping, Amazon Prime right to my door.
Yeah.
And you do that inside of Instagram, you do that inside of Pinterest, you do that inside of social platforms. The easier, the smoother the path. I mean, that's definitely a huge opportunity.
My wife and I were joking about that the other day. My son wanted a very specific Lego set. She went onto Amazon while we were at a stoplight, and before the light turned green, she had purchased it, and it was on its way from Amazon Prime. Right? I mean, huge change, but very few companies, very few brands have started to leverage these buy now buttons or these buy now features. And the other thing that's going to be interesting, we're going to transition to data here in a second, but a lot of these networks will provide brands additional insights on the click-through rate. We can talk a little bit about attribution later.
Yeah.
But attribution is going to be a big thing in 2017, and making sure that you're getting ROI from the content and the buy now button on different networks.
Yeah, I mean, that's convenience, right? Yeah. The convenience of it is the major factor with all social media and all e-commerce. Honestly, how many times do you go to buy something and it's burdensome, and you're like, you're immediately turned off. You're going to back away. So through social media, you're definitely going to be able to do that.
Yeah, so this is a slide we actually presented at a conference we recently did. But it's just a very good eye candy to explain how prevalent social is. And we want to do another one in maybe a few months that talks about video specifically. But if you look at YouTube, right, there's an hour of video uploaded on YouTube every second. I mean, can you imagine now you have 4 or 5 different platforms where that's going to be the case. 500 million tweets a day, 4.5 billion times a day, the like button gets pushed on or tapped on Facebook.
Yeah.
Huge amount of data. The problem with this, though, is that there can be issues with social data, right? We see this in Nuvie all the time. There's the bad and there's the good. The bad is that it's inherently noisy. It's prone to user error. We're expecting users to spell things right. Whether you like it or not, Google and every social network, they index incorrect spellings. Right? So there's no spelling check when you're posting something. And then there's a lack of standardization across networks, right? We can talk about this in a second, but Twitter specifically, every tweet that gets published on the Twitter platform has 30 pieces of metadata attached.
Yeah.
Right? That's huge. You think about it, behind the scenes, there's 30 pieces of data attached to that. But on other networks, there could be 2 or 3 or 4, right? So there's no standardization across networks. And then they all have very disparate data models. So some networks, they store things at the user level. Some they associate them with hashtags. Some they associate them with the like. So the data model itself is not consistent across different networks. And then we talk about the good. From a data perspective, the thing we love about social data is that it's completely unfiltered, right? It's unsolicited. You can get a lot of insights from really, really unsolicited data. You're not prodding or giving the consumer any incentive to tell you what they think. They're doing it on their own. They're taking their own time to do it, which is extremely valuable. And then advanced processing. So this is something that we do in Nuvie, and I know our competitors do this too. When they bring data into their platforms, when we bring data into our platform, we do a bunch of processing on it so that it has more value to the marketer, the agency, or the people, the CIO that's using our data. And then it's always on, right? So you can go to sleep and still expect to collect data. Which is a pretty interesting thing, and it's a change from how things were even 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just through all this election process, like you hear like, oh, according to this survey of 1,000 people, like this is who's winning this county in this state. 1,000 people, like really? That's what we're basing our opinions and understanding on? Is that the 1,000 people that they surveyed? That someone actually had to go through and survey the data that we can pull in and that's always on is really revolutionary. Really, I mean, going to continue to change
the
world around us.
And this year, hopefully, this is something we're working on. We're always trying to bring in more sources, more data sources, and over time, I think a lot of the networks will open up some of the data access that providers like Nuvie have, and it just creates a much more rich repository of information for marketers, and they can do more and more interesting things with it. But so this is, we talk about this all the time in Nuvie. Not all posts are created equal, and this is where I think one thing that will happen in 2017 is people will start to look at both their employees and their customers as influencers. Right now, people look at influencer marketing and they're going out and they're trying to find people that have a ton of followers already, and then you leverage that person's followership, for their brand or whatever it is. I think that'll shift a little bit, and we've seen there's platforms that have started to come up, and they've for both employee advocacy on social and customer advocacy on social. And if you're a brand, one thing that you should be looking at going into the year is who's using my product, that loves my product, that talks about it organically, and how can I incent that person to keep doing it? And they may only have 500 followers or 1,000 followers or 5,000 and not 30 million like DJ Khaled on Snapchat, right?
Yeah.
But you should figure out what can you do with those people to keep them sharing content. Same thing with your employees. There's 2 pretty interesting platforms out there. I know that we work kind of closely with one of them called Everyone Social, and they do a thing where they basically leverage your internal employees as your voice, right? And like brand advocates or product advocates. And I think larger brands should look at that and figure out how do we monetize that? How do we figure out how to use people that are already sharing organically about our stuff to get them to do more. And there's probably incentive programs and things like that involved, but at the same time, it's a super rich data set, and it's a super rich group of people that they don't need a lot of incentive.
Yeah, they're invested already. Right?
Yeah, exactly, right? If you have an influencer that has 3 million followers, you have to outlay a pretty significant incentive plan to get them to talk about your product, right? But if you have somebody that has 500 or 1,000 or 5,000, the incentive doesn't have to be so great.
Yeah, that might need to be a topic for a future webinar. It's kind of like you probably could consider it organic influence marketing, where you're going to there might be some incentives involved, but you're going to use your employee base, your brand loyalists, those that, and a lot of companies do this, but specifically to get your message out organically, and not have to try to find someone that is DJ Khalid on Snapchat with 30 million?
He has, I think he has 30 million followers.
He's like the man of Snapchat, right?
He is
the top guy,
and he's completely unfiltered, very interesting, right? I think he was Snapchatting his baby's birth, right, live every few seconds, and so, but yeah, you don't have to have an influencer like that. There's other ways to do influencer marketing with people that are already fans of what you do, right? We actually have a customer that does this. They use our platform specifically to find people that talk about what they do and what they sell, and then they engage with those people. And I think that's going to be more of a thing in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited. I believe we're planning on doing a webinar here with Everyone Social coming up in 2017. We'll definitely be talking a lot more about that and how to do that.
Be great. So this is just an example of spike analysis. I think for a lot of our PR clients and people that do crisis management, we work with a lot of utility companies that do things like my power's out, there's a water main break at Central and Main type thing. Social's not just for social media anymore. You can use social to solve business problems. So if you've got a power outage or something like that, social media can actually help you resolve that problem rather than taking 3,000 calls into your call center. You can actually get advance notice of it on social, throw up a message on social and tell people, hey, we know, we're aware of that. And you can reduce the chatter in your contact center or whatever service model you use. So there's interesting ways to use social that I don't think are being used today, and that will become more of a thing, right? We've started to work with a few companies that want to use social media for HR to engage employees about events, using it as a notification platform rather than buying off-the-shelf tools. So you can solve a lot of interesting business problems, and I think that'll be more of a thing in 2017. I think people will look at it and say, how can I use social in an interesting way where I don't have to buy another tool or 10 other tools or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. How many times do you have a complaint, right? And something you're going to call in. I'm going to call Verizon.
Yeah.
And hey, no one wants to call, right? No one wants to call and get put on hold and push 2 for sales or 3 for customer service to get there, to get to the end point. When you can tweet at them, or you can Facebook message or communicate that way. And then on the other end, the brand or company doesn't have to have a call center. They don't have to have this massive amount of phones and IT. Just you think of all the cost of all of that. They can have a team of social media monitors that are immediately alerted.
Exactly.
I have the alerts set up for Nuvve, so when people have questions on Nuvve, I personally get the alert on my phone, and I know, hey, I need to reach out to this person, or they have a question, and that is, I mean, continued. 2017 is going to be huge in customer service. HR would be really interesting. I mean, you get these large companies. I mean, no one. I mean, email is dead, right? Email's dying.
I think it was Peter Thiel that said, if somebody figures out how to solve the email problem, I'll invest $1 billion in your company today, or whatever he said, something like that. But email is a massive problem, but I think a lot of these platforms will migrate more towards communication tools. And I think it's interesting, if you look at the number of people that you direct messaged on Facebook in 2014, that number was higher in 2015. It was also higher in 2016, and it's going to be higher in 2017, right? People are migrating their actual communications to some of these platforms. Right?
Yeah, I have a habit of screen screenshotting.
Screenshotting, yeah.
Screenshotting my like Instagram, like
Sure.
images and things, and then texting to friends or
Yeah.
whatever. And every time I do it, Instagram sends you a little reminder up at the top. It's like, you can just share this in the app, right? Like, you just share this with your friends.
Yeah.
And I don't
it's
know.
Muscle memory. We have to change your muscle memory.
Yeah, maybe I'm the old man now that's like, how do you use Twitter or whatever? But
I'll get my 12-year-old to show you.
Seriously, seriously, that's definitely what has happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this is this is a tool here at Nuvve we call the Bubble Stream. It's extremely impactful, especially if you're watching large volume conversations in real time. We're one of the best out there, I think, at real time data. But I think you have to identify what your brand does and who your demographic is and who your audience is. Some things are not great for real time. Others are, and I think that's something that people should be looking forward to and making that determination. A lot of times we have customers come to us and they're like, I don't know if I need real time or not. I think it's something that every organization should think through, because if you need it, there's world-class tools out there. If you don't need it, you can potentially save yourself some money. So make that determination as you go into looking at whatever you're buying or whatever you're using. But I think real-time is one that there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions around how it works and what it's useful for. But.
Yeah, and even this little GIF here is a little overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not very often that someone's going to be monitoring the release of the next iPhone, and all of a sudden you just blow up all these bubbles and you see all this massive conversation. I mean, we monitored our grand opening event here at the building, and we had people, we asked our customers and clients to tweet in or to post, and we had a little giveaway going on, but that real-time feature was awesome because the bubble came in, the post came in, I was able to monitor right there from my desk, and I would reach out to them or tell them whether they won or not, or just like and even just retweet their post, and definitely real-time is a size thing too. You can depending on the size of the conversation.
Exactly. It'd be very helpful for some organizations. Other organizations, it's not going to be that helpful for. So this is something we talk about all the time internally, and I think this is a message I love to get to our customers, or for people that are looking for these types of tools, or going into the new year and kind of looking at their strategy. There's really 3 key things you need to think about when you're thinking about social, because there's so much data out there. And one, you need to think about data velocity, right? How fast do I need the data? Do I need it in real time? Do I need it latent? Or can it be historical only? Do I need it after the fact, or do I need it this moment, right? The other thing is data volume. Do I need all the data, or can I get away with a sample? We work with a large pharmaceutical company who they really only need a sample of the data. They don't actually need the whole fire hose. So that's another determination that you want to make. And then data variety. So depending on who your cohort of customers or potential customers are, they live in different places, right? My kids, they use Instagram and Snapchat, and that's it, right? So if you're selling to 12-year-olds, maybe that's the place. But we know that the demographic on Facebook skews higher. It's 35-ish plus, right, or whatever. So making that determination and understanding what data sources are really key to my brand or to my organization, I think you can get much better insights by trying to cut through some of the noise and get really dialed in on what your strategy is around these 3 things. And you can potentially save yourself money and save yourself or your BI team or your marketing team a ton of time by making these determinations up front.
And getting to know your audience, right?
Exactly.
Knowing your audience.
Yep. So with regards to data, any social data you pull in, this should get better in 2017. I can't promise that. We're hoping it'll get better, but these are 3 things. These are probably the 3 most important things when it comes to any social post, regardless of network. Number 1 is the location, right? Everybody has some general use case for location. And even if your product isn't localized, there's a lot of different reasons that you can use local for crafting your message. Maybe use different colors in Chicago than you do in New York versus Atlanta, like whatever it is. There's usually some use case where location's a big deal. Metadata is the other one. Understanding what metadata you have access to or what you need. Do you need to know the type of device or the type of operating system that their device is using? Some people, yes. We work with a client that's a technology company, and for them, they really need to understand which iOS version you have on your phone.
Oh, wow.
Right? For most brands and most companies, that's not a thing. They don't care. But for this particular client, that's a big deal. And then the other is sentiment, right? You need to know and understand, is the sentiment out there about your brand, is it positive, is it negative, is it neutral? And then there's other sentiment that's emotional as well, right? And at Nuvve we categorize that, and I know some of our competitors do that as well, but it's a very helpful thing depending on the type of product you're managing. This is a good example of location. You can see this one particular post had an enormous positive impact in this particular region, right? And then you can see all the other posts that had either a neutral or negative impact. This is kind of what we talked about, a few minutes ago with regards to metadata that's attached to a Twitter post. So this SoundCloud post on the left, you would never think, but there's actually 30 additional pieces of data that you cannot see on the screen that are attached to that item on the Twitter platform. Really, really rich data set for marketers, for agencies, for businesses, BI people, whoever's using this data. But you should understand and know what you need and don't need.
What would be some examples? Some people might not quite understand metadata. Yeah. So like, what are some like 30 of the 30 like?
Great, that's a great question. So some of it could be privacy information, whether the user shares their location or doesn't share their location. That could be a flag. Another one's the actual location, so latitude, longitude. There's other things around, was it posted from a third-party publishing tool? Okay. So did SoundCloud use TweetDeck to push this out, or Buffer, or something else, or Nuvve, or whatever it is? So there's all kinds of metadata that can be attached to these things. And as a business or a product, if you're managing an agency, or if you're trying to really hone in on your strategy, you just want to know, like, what are some of those additional questions that I could have, and maybe have a conversation with somebody and say, can I get those?
I mean, that's half the battle, right? Is knowing the question to ask.
Exactly.
That's the point, right?
So this is sentiment. This is when, I think, Scott, this was you, right? You did the World Series.
Yeah, we like to monitor events on occasion, and tweet about them and share insights with people, and we did the World Series, and it just happened to be on my birthday.
Okay.
So
congratulations.
That was an added birthday joy.
Are you a Cubs fan?
National League fan.
All right.
I like the NL more than the AL for sure. Okay. I can't say I'm a Cubs fan, but it was fun to watch them win.
I mean, clearly from this you can see that 6% of people are Cubs haters, right? So 43% were wanting the Cubs to win. No, just kidding. But sentiment's a really, really interesting data point depending on what you're trying to do, especially if you're doing PR, crisis management. We've watched in certain instances events happen, or influencers will post something and that item gets reshared or retweeted, and you'll see the sentiment change very, very quickly. So whatever your strategy is, sentiment's a very important data point. So. And this is kind of what we were talking about with emotional sentiment. It's a pretty interesting thing, and we use a pretty robust natural language processing engine that will take and parse all the information from posts and start to categorize it into emotional categories. For some customers, some agencies or brands, this isn't a big deal, but for others, it's very interesting to know. This tends to work really well for content-driven posts, not so much for image-driven posts. Right?
We had a client that used it for the Premier League for soccer, for the managers, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to know the sentiment surrounding each of the coaches. I call them coaches. I guess they call them managers in soccer or whatever. But
somebody's going to tweet you incorrectly.
I know. That's the joy of life, right? But yeah, they wanted to know the sentiment surrounding each manager and each coach. Okay. Created a great content piece, and was able to share that. And I mean, we're all in marketing. We're all into storytelling.
Yeah.
We got to be able to tell our story, and we can tell it through great pieces of content. Yep. So sentiment's a great thing to have content pieces around.
And that's a really good point, right? So if you're building your marketing strategy for a customer or for a product, you could use a lot of these emotional categories to help craft that story and understand, like, what vein or path should I go down that's going to resonate the most with this particular prospective customer set, right?
Yeah, I have this argument with my wife a lot that oh, it's so dramatic, like that show is so dramatic, or I try to tell myself I don't
Yeah.
like drama, I don't
Right.
like emotion, right? And maybe that's just masculine thing, but really I love emotion, right? I
Right.
love a good story, I love a good
Yeah.
drama, and I think it's just self-denial, right?
Yeah.
But brands and companies that can
Yeah.
produce good content that
Yep.
has some sort of emotion, whether it's love or
Yeah.
happiness
Yeah.
or disaster. Um,
Again, that's like, it's like PR 101, know your audience, right?
Mhm.
And those shows she's watching, they've done a really great job of understanding their audience, and so they build that dramatic, for that particular group of people watching, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite things. Like, I love data, I love social data, I love marketing data in general, and I've told you this story before. So the guy on the right, he's an octopi, I guess is the right word, right? And he was in a zoo in Germany, and what they used to do is they would place, every time the World Cup came around, they would place the two top contenders, these boxes in front of him, and inside the boxes, those clear boxes, they would put a mussel or something that octopi like to eat, right? So he would go and choose one, and his success rate at picking the World Cup winner was 85%, right? That's really, really good. The funny thing is that if you dig a lot deeper and you start to understand octopi, they actually view linear lines, the way their eyes read or scan, linear lines are much more important to them than images. So you can understand what happened in most cases, right? He's going to pick Germany or some other country that has a similar looking flag because the image on the right, the image in the center, is disruptive to his eye. And very interesting. Of course, at the time while he was doing this, he passed away, unfortunately. But when he was doing this, Germany was really, really good at soccer, right? And so don't be a data manipulator, right? I think everybody has these people or have worked with some type of person in their organization or in a former job or whatever where they'll use data to tell whatever story they want. And I think inside of an organization or even with consumers or when you're crafting content, whatever it is, people don't like that when they finally get down to the grassroots and they figure it out. So be upfront. Don't manipulate your data. Figure out what story it's trying to tell. Try to get rid of the noise and try to keep it simple. But yeah,
that's so hard though. We're storytellers, right?
Yeah,
we're marketing
no, I
for a
agree.
reason. We're advertising. We're telling that story, and we want to tell the story the way that we want it told.
Agreed.
But it is very important, right?
Yeah.
Trust the data.
Yeah.
Trust the information behind before you create the attention-grabbing video. The ones that succeed are the ones that understand that their audience is this demographic.
Yeah.
They're worried about these issues or they have these emotions, and those are the videos that win. Those are the pieces of content that win. And don't just create, I'm going to create a sob story piece of content and it's going to be beautiful and I'm going to have a guest director come in and do all this production and then it's just going to die. It's not going to do right because you're not looking at the data. You're not understanding the audience. You're not. Your target is way off.
Agreed. Yeah, and you do have to strike that balance between crafting an amazing storytelling message, but also being very objective with the data. And I think a lot of times this is even more so for internal teams, right? If you're a VP of digital marketing or social or whatever, don't go to your CMO with bad data, right? It hurts your credibility. But and then this is just, I'm a huge fan of Spotify. I woke up yesterday and in my Spotify feed it was like, hey, here's the songs you've listened to the most in 2016. I'm like, what an awesome feature, right?
That is awesome.
And I just started listening.
What were they?
Yeah.
Put you on the
spot. A lot of Coldplay, a lot of Mumford & Sons, a lot of One Republic. But
nice.
I started playing it. I've been listening to it for 2 days now. So, but Spotify does something that's really, really interesting, which I think is going to be more of a thing in 2017. We talked a little bit about this, about consumer advocacy. So what they've done, if you look at both of these images, these are actual tweets, and they went and reached out to these consumers that are users of their service, and they said, hey, can we use your thing in a marketing ad? Great way to engage your customers and make them feel really special, but also keep them sharing your content and keeping them engaged all the time. I mean, this is really cool. I would love to be in a spot, like some tweet I've sent, be in a Spotify ad.
Hey, Spotify.
You know? Yeah, there you go. Spotify, if you're listening. That's right. And on more than one occasion, I've mentioned how great their service is. But they've done a really interesting thing is they've turned it around and said, how can we leverage these really good posts in a really, really interesting way? And these are beautiful images, really well done, bright colors, awesome fonts, great design behind it. And they've taken something that was really simple that somebody composed in a few seconds, and they turned it into an entire marketing campaign, right? Really, really interesting.
Yeah, we're pretty much wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on as looking 2017?
No, I think if anybody has questions, comments, they want to correct anything we said or add to it, you know, mention us, reach out to us on Twitter, whatever it is, but yeah.
Yeah, and you can email questions to webinars@nuvie.com as well.
Perfect.
We'll be
Love
watching those. And again, just to follow up, this has been recorded. We will be posting this to our YouTube channel, and you can find it there, and we will also be emailing it out to everyone that had registered.
Perfect.
And so we'll add this to another piece of content. So we thank Eric for joining us today, and we look forward to many more webinars to come.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, well, take care, everyone. We'll talk to you later.